You know you done f***ed up, right? What's good, everybody? EE here, and today's video discussion is going to be a little bit different. We're going to go throughout the history of Smash and talk about some of the most notoriously banned players that the scene has to offer. Now, I'm not glorifying these guys in any kind of way, but maybe kind of giving you a glimpse into things that you need to make sure you don't do so you don't end up on a list like this. Now, we all understand that words have power, and sometimes these words, whether intentional or not, they can be damaging and hurtful.
Can you say happy birthday to my friend Nicker? Happy birthday, Nicker.
Ah, yes, Mr. Nick Kerr. I know him well. I know him well. Now, obviously, that's just an example for humor. We all know Mewtwo is just a goofball, like me with genitals.
Foreskin Tim?
Don't read that.
What?
Sometimes a slip of the tongue happens. But a lot of these guys on this list, yeah, it was intentional. Now, the first thing a lot of people are already probably thinking is, oh, I'm going to mention Leffen. Look, that Leffen story has been told for, you know, infinity. You know what I'm saying? There's really nothing new to say there. Obviously, he was a little toxic back in the day, got himself into some beef with Armada, got himself banned for a year, came back with it, actually very detailed, and it seemed like sincere apology letter. And ever since then, he's just kind of been a pillar of the community. Really funny guy, but maybe not somebody you want to argue with. But nonetheless, Leffen is kind of an example of, yeah, you can do wrong and come back, but a lot of these guys, they go beyond that. Now, most recently, you guys probably saw that Over Triforce has actually been banned from the community. Over there in Europe, he's a Sheik main, kind of got a reputation for being pretty talented, but maybe a little bit of scummy. Definitely somebody who smells. I remember a couple memes going on about that, but this took it to a whole nother level. In the twit longer that was actually referenced when they were banning him from the scene, I mean, you saw things like sexual assault was on there, stalking, manipulation, tones of underage, messing with underage girls. I'm just like, good Lord. And the crazy thing about this is I had heard something about this like 2 or 3 years ago, and I just kind of wasn't sure if they really pressed on it or anything like that, or the girl just kind of rescinded. I don't know the girl's name. We're not going to mention any victims or anything like that, but this guy's a real problem, and it was kind of crazy to see just how many people were actually happy that he's been banned because they were kind of aware of this behavior. I was not aware to the extent, but yeah, Over Triforce is definitely somebody who's made the news recently for all the wrong reasons. I think he even put his account on private, so my man is definitely, not my man, that man is definitely f***ing up. Next on the list is going to be somebody who's actually kind of shows that words do have power. Now, you guys probably recently saw that NASCAR driver who got himself banned from you know, kicked out of his team, banned from NASCAR, for kind of letting us know what the N in NASCAR really stands for. But this next guy on the list is actually somebody who's just kind of got into his own head and just went crazy. I'm talking about Absent Page. Now, if you're familiar with Absent Page, you know he's actually a pretty rising Fox star in the Melee scene. I mean, the guy was very talented, very technical, and he was taking people to the limit, you know, games against Axe, Wizrobe, really collecting a laundry list of good accomplishments. But then something happened. He made a couple of tweets that were just absolutely absurd, threatening people's lives, telling people he's coming for them, he doesn't care about the scene, you know, everybody can go f yourselves and all this other stuff, wanting people to die. And it's just like, damn, man, like this is just actually just a textbook case of another brother just losing his shit. You know, I just really didn't understand where it came from. Now, I've been at several tournaments with my boys, and you know, we were kind of Absent Page fans. You know, he was a brother, he was doing well, and we wanted to give him some love or whatever. But you know, the most he ever really returned was just kind of a head nod and then just kind of like a get away from me kind of look. So I always kind of thought that was interesting, but you know, I don't know what his life was like, and well, unfortunately now we never will know. But that actually might be for the best, because he's done. All right, now this next individual I'm sure everybody is familiar with. I'm talking about the Shiz Wiz, and what a history this man has. He's really known a lot for that iconic game he had at a revival of Melee with Mewtwo, and I believe it was Losers Finals. He was up 3-1 stocks, and then Mewtwo just simply brought it back, created one of the most hype moments in all of Smash's history, and a lot of people attribute that to the reason why Melee was able to keep thriving, because I believe this was around the time that Brawl dropped as well, which was garnering a lot of attention. However, we're not talking about that. What we're talking about is actually outside the game. You see, the Shiz Wiz, he garnered a laundry list of issues: theft, aggravated battery, okay, assault. There's just all these kind of things that kind of came out about this guy that actually kind of forced him into a 4-year break. Now, I know he's talked about how he had at the time been living in some less than considerable good conditions and all the other stuff, but you know, a lot of people in the community were a little nervous about this guy coming around or coming back, and even I remember when he was considering going to EVO, there was a lot of pushback on that. You know, Hungrybox ran a donation goal on his stream to get him to EVO, and I think he did perform pretty well at that tournament. I think he upset Gatsu, finished like 33rd, so he definitely showed he still had the skill, but it was clear that he wasn't welcomed back by everybody in the community. I recall him actually challenging Leffen to a money match, and Leffen had some pretty harsh words, mentioned the fact that he didn't want to get stabbed, stuff like that. Like, it was pretty nutty, but definitely the Shizwiz kind of earned those stripes. I mean, you got to also include the fact that he kind of went out on a limb. I believe he tried to start a rap career, and that didn't go particularly well.
Turned up on my niggas, turned up on my dogs, turned up on my killers. You know real niggas get on. Real niggas don't play. Real niggas ain't about games. Real niggas in my clique, and you a bitch trying to talk is right now, my nigga.
Now, I will give the Shizwiz some credit. He showed off several documents proving that he had been going to drug and anger management therapy to kind of get himself together. He tweeted that, he had proof of it, so that's good. But the thing about it is, a lot of people, even though you're kind of showing reform, they're still going to push back on it. It's just one of those things you can't really overcome. Now, lately, I don't know where the Shizwiz has been. I haven't heard his name in a couple of months, maybe even a couple of years at this point, since that EVO appearance that he had. But nonetheless, it's pretty clear that the community is split as far as welcoming him back or not. But hey, he's been at tournaments, so who's to say he won't come back again? Though if he does come back, I certainly hope that it is with a certain level of discretion. I mean, one of the big stories there was that he actually punched a gas attendant in the face over, I don't know, bro, probably some damn hot Cheetos knowing black people, you know what I'm saying? That's just my speculation, though. We'll move on. You know, I hate to keep referencing my brothers here, but, you know, y'all just keep f***ing up. So we're going to take it up to the Great White North and discuss somebody known as Unknown and some of the trials and tribulations that he had. Now, if you guys are familiar with Inui, you'll understand why I actually didn't fault him for this. He was at a tournament, he was playing Mewtwo King, Inui was heckling him during the match, and he just, after the match, I believe he lost, went over to Inui and just choked the crap out of him, okay? Like, just flat out went over there and just put hands to that man's neck and just tried to take him out. This actually resulted in him being banned from Apex 2013, as well as a year ban from his own scene up there in Canada, I believe. Now, Unknown wasn't just solo involved in just this one particular incident. Apparently, he had a relationship with a prominent Sheik main at the time known as Kirby Kaze, which was a little bit abusive. That got out, and that also resulted in some problems for him as well. But as Canada has proven on many occasions, they are quite the forgiving people up there. Despite some of the sexual abuse accusations that he faced, he was able to eventually return to the scene, I believe under the name Ryan Ford is what he goes by now. Now, I actually know him. I've talked to him on several occasions. I can confidently say this is actually somebody who has legitimately changed. Like, he doesn't have that anger that he once had. You know, I'm honestly, like, this is years ago. I mean, we're going back like 10 years. I was at a Melee tournament in Georgia. He lost a Hungrybox and just threw a chair. It was the wildest thing I had. I was standing next to PB&J, and I was like, Dad. And he was like, that ain't Chris. I was like, it was not Chris, man. And it was only the beginning of definitely a couple of affairs of issues that he would have down the stretch. But you know what? I credit him a lot. He seems like he's changed, so big ups to him. All right, this next offender on the list, oh my goodness. I know you guys have probably been waiting for this, and I'm not going to shy away from it, okay? I'm talking about the one and only Hyuga. Now, Hyuga's rise to fame and stardom was actually pretty impressive. I mean, the guy came into Smash 4, he was playing Toon Link, he's from Mexico, a region I felt like was always a little underrepresented as far as like the top players go. But this guy really showed up well at a Genesis, okay? Remember at that CEO, I believe he defeated Nairo, so he definitely was accruing a lot of good wins under his belt. He would also go on to be sponsored along with Pink Fresh. However, that sponsorship would only last about a week because at EVO 2016, he was accused of sexually assaulting Vicky Kitty. Now, everybody knows this story for the most part. It was actually pretty prominently featured throughout a lot of Smash, and for good reason. You know what I'm saying? You should, one, never put your hands on a female. Two, you should never put your hands on anyone, period, without their consent. And it appeared that a drunken night led to this, as I believe she was felt up in her hotel room with like other people in there too, asleep. But nonetheless, I mean, Hyuga in just some sort of drunken state still went through with this. Now, both parties actually ended up addressing this, and it's kind of interesting to see that Vicky actually showing a high, level of forgiveness at one point, saying, okay, she understood his twit longer, where his mind was, what happened with that. Obviously not excusing it, but understanding and at least appreciative that he acknowledged it for the most part. It seemed like they actually had some communication as well, but obviously, regardless of if she actually forgave him or not, this isn't going to change the mind of a lot of people in the community. And that's for good reason. Hugo actually ended up, besides losing his sponsorship, like a week later, he ended up being banned from all US events, and I believe European events too, for a year's period of time. Actually, when that year passed up, I remember there were consideration about letting him attend a 2DG tournament, which did not go over well with a lot of people. Like, obviously the diehard Hugo fans, Toon Link fans are all for it, but a lot of the community was definitely against it, and you saw Champ actually issue a statement saying that his ban would be upheld indefinitely. There's also a tournament over in Europe I believe he's going to try and attend as well, and once people got wind of that, a lot of backlash forced him to kind of rescind that offer. So Hugo really never got his standing back within the community, and you can't really blame him. I mean, sexual assault is definitely something serious. Now, he did still end up competing in Smash 4 in Mexico. Actually went to a tournament in Mexico. Absolutely just terrible. I mean, I remember I left my bag in the car and they just broke in and just stole from me, and I was like, thank God I didn't have my passport in there. Not Hugo specifically, but just, you know, just some El Chapo goon, something like that. But I digress. The point is, the Mexican scene seemed to appreciate the fact that Hugo did indeed take what happened very seriously, did seek treatment for it, completely quit out drinking. Actually, when I was at that tournament, showed up with a girlfriend. So definitely it seemed like he was making some strides for improvement. Don't know if we'll see him return to the US for competition for maybe Ultimate or something like that, but some wounds just don't heal that easily. Next up, we're gonna go ahead and head to Las Vegas, and I'm talking about JK. Oh my goodness. If Fast and the Furious needed another member, bruh, look no further. JK was a Bayonetta main who was actually pretty damn good for his time in Smash 4. The thing that really cost JK was the fact that apparently he tried to run somebody over, you know what I'm saying? I believe it was Charlie the King, if I'm not mistaken, in a parking lot after a tournament. Just some bad blood there, a lot of people talking. There's a lot of different accounts to what happened, but the fact of the matter is, JK definitely showed a little bit of road rage that night. Now, although this was actually one of the things that really got a lot of eyes on JK for very negative reasons, the thing that I think ultimately did him in was all these threats he ended up making, sending DMs talking about he was going to blow up somebody's house, he was going to kill them, which, as you know, is just completely unacceptable in all regard. You know what I'm saying? Like, it even made, you know, Bear made a statement on it. Tournaments across the country were just banning him and letting him know he's just completely not welcomed. And I mean, it was kind of a sight to see, because here you got this young guy, you know, prominent player, but you just don't really know what's going on in that head, and you really can't afford to take any chances. This country has proven many times that people are just unhinged and anything can happen. So, hey, it is what it is. I don't know what JK's stance is right now. I don't know where JK is. Hopefully he's not watching this video, because I would really hate to have a semi just bust through my front door and run my black ass over. All right, so getting off the topic of only players, let's go ahead and give an honorable mention to Promelia, Eichelman, Nightmare, and Mafia. You can go ahead and read up on them on your own time, but I didn't want the final one to be a player, okay? The final person on this list is somebody who actually was hailed. I mean, he was hailed for just being absolutely amazing until this.
2013 with the CEO of Apex, Mr. Jonathan Lugo. Sir, how are you?
Doing really good, Jason. How you been?
You know, Alex Strife actually was doing really good until he f***ed it all up. The thing about Alex Strife was he was a very passionate tournament organizer. I mean, he was one of the best, no doubt about it. Apex is an iconic series that I know a lot of people are actually looking forward to returning, obviously, under new management. He had the Viridian City series. I mean, that was just something that garnered a lot of attention as well in the tri-state area. I remember attending a couple of those. Ran really well, but behind closed doors, Alex Strife had a lot of problems. Sexually harassing a lot of people in the community within DMs. I mean, I'm talking about underage girls. He was giving transsexual girls problems as well, even threatening to out one at one time, which I thought was just absolutely insane. I mean, the guy just had a lot of issues. I remember one Apex in particular, I just lost a side bet and I ran outside trying to obviously avoid paying that. Yeah. And I see Alex Strife, and he's actually like directing a bunch of the Japanese players to get into a U-Haul. And it seemed like they were a little apprehensive. I just hear him yell, "Shut up and get in. You don't need a seatbelt." And I'm just like, what the hell is going on? I would later find out that he was actually transporting the Japanese players around in a U-Haul. I don't know. I guess maybe this was before Uber, stuff like that. This was a while ago, but nonetheless, very unsafe conditions. And of course, Alex, he had always had like this side of him where he'd make some sexist or racist jokes every now and then. But the level that he ended up getting taken to was insane. I mean, it was like the first huge Smash 4 tournament. It was going to be at Apex, and then like a week before, just the hit the fan, and he was immediately outed. Christmas, actually, his girlfriend at the time, no longer, would assume control of all operations for that particular Apex, which in itself was an absolute disaster. I mean, the hotel that it was operated out of was actually condemned, okay? The side of the hotel that we were supposed to be in, we ended up having to move to, I believe it was a convention center like 30 minutes away in New Jersey. It was insane, but it actually ended up being one of the best tournaments I'd actually attended, and shout outs to 100,000 views for Smash. I believe that was actually the first time we did that on BG Bootcamp's channel. Now, after Alex Strife was ousted, nobody actually really knows what happened to him. I mean, I heard rumors here and there that he was either in a mental institution, that he just flat out disappeared off the grid. Somebody even told me that he moved to China, okay? So I really don't know what happened to him. But needless to say, one of the premier tournament organizers in the world turned out to be a complete sleazeball, and he was never seen again, presumably. All right, guys, well, I certainly appreciate you watching. I hope you did enjoy the content. If you did, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. And please use this video as a guide for what not to do, not only in the Smash community, but in life, okay? A lot of this stuff, honestly, some of these people should be behind bars, okay? They're lucky that the gaming community doesn't have a clue what they're doing half the time. But nonetheless, I believe I do, which is why you should subscribe to the channel for more content. See you on the next one.